Introducing, out of the red corner, wearing the orange and black trunks, hailing from Cutoff, Louisiana, they are the king of Down the Bayou podcasts, always ready to turn Facebook drama into a good time. Introducing the undisputed world champions, the Group Chat Podcast.
In this episode of the Group Chat Pod, we sit down with 32-year professional wrestling veteran Mustang Mike. Damien chats with Mike about the highs, lows, and crazy times in his legendary career. We also talk about the upcoming Cajun Heat event taking place on July 11th in Morgan City. This event will be the last time Mustang will enter the ring. Sit back, grab a drink, and maybe a drunk cig, and enjoy the episode.
Here with the Group Chat Podcast special pop-up edition, rolling solo tonight without Casey, my host. So I'm going to try to do a good job. But we got Mustang Mike, who is going to be entering his last professional wrestling match. Mike, when I met you about 20 years ago, I never thought we would have this type of conversation. We'll get into a lot of stuff in the next, 30 minutes. But tell us about the event coming up in Morgan City, Cajun Heat 10. I know you're excited about it. Tell us a little bit about it.
To give you a back history on just the actual Cajun Heat, it started in 2016. The NWA approached me. They knew that I was involved in wrestling for the longest time, and we had a successful promotion going on down in Morgan City area. And they approached me about wanting to bring in a event to the Morgan City Auditorium. And of course, most people who know Morgan City know it's a legendary arena that all the back years of Mid-South wrestling and world-class wrestling and all of the big promotions have been through there over the years. And fortunate enough that, I was able to win my first championship over there from Mid-South back in 1995. And they approached me about wanting to do a show there. And I said I was aboard, so I helped them promote and put the show together. That was July 2nd of 2016. And of course, we lost the 1 year of COVID in 2020, but now here we are 11 years later, which is Cajun Heat 10. Well, 10 years later. It's just a huge event right here in Morgan City, Louisiana, my hometown. We average between 800 to 1,000 people that come to the event. It's kind of our Super Bowl, our WrestleMania of independent professional wrestling. And I'm fortunate to be able to do it in my hometown. And it's bittersweet because it's a great event. But after 32 years of me putting my body through the torment that I have that most people can't understand what professional wrestlers go through, it's just that time where I feel like I want to be able to walk out on my terms instead of terms that aren't mine.
So I know you can't do this without some sponsors. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to pay some bills for sure right here. So who's helping you out?
I mean, I got so many great sponsors. I'll just mention a few of them that help out all the time. Angie's Washateria. We have the Galley. We have Pick-a-Pack, Chad Ross. A lot of them will come to my mind. I might even mention some more later. But we just got so many companies right here in Morgan City that when most people come to the shows, they see the banners that hang up around town and at the show, and they see all the names. And when y'all see those companies and you see the postcards around town, those companies are the ones who make these events possible. The fans come and they buy the tickets, which we couldn't do it without them, but the money that it takes to put on a top-notch wrestling event and get the top-notch talent that we want to provide, companies in Morgan City that always back us, I could never thank them enough.
I remember when I was probably, 18, somewhere between 18 and 25, maybe 16 and 25. The RF shoot videos with Rob Feinstein, those were like gold to me. If I got a chance to order something off of there, so I feel like that's what we're going through, like the old school. They used to have maybe 4 or 5 hours that folks would just sit and talk wrestling, and I still watch some of that stuff when I get a chance on YouTube. They're just so interesting, going kind of behind the curtain. So that's kind of where I'm guiding this interview. So to the beginning, take us back. What got you into wrestling, or who got you into wrestling, and what gave you that love for the sport that you still have today, 30 years later?
Well, I know a lot of wrestlers have their own story on why they wanted to be a wrestler. I grew up as a kid watching it. Of course, being in South Louisiana, we had Mid-South, Junkyard Dog and the Freebirds and the Rock and Roll Express and Wrestling Number Two and all of those guys, Bill Watts. I just grew up loving wrestling, and I just knew that there was something that I loved about it, but never in my wildest dreams did I ever think that I could still become a wrestler. You as a kid, you think that's just, it's easier to be a professional football player than to be a professional wrestler. I was always into sports and athletic and doing things like that, staying in shape. And just by chance, I met a guy named Bronco Bob. He was a regular guy. He had a regular job during the week, but he wrestled on the weekends. They call those the pioneer guys, the guys who just, you got to work a regular job to pay the bills, weekend warrior wrestle. And I met him, and he had talked about that they had professional wrestling going on in Houma. And I'm like, man, I've never heard of that. And he's like, oh, yeah, at East Park Recreation Center, we do one show a month. Why don't you come to a show? Like, well, yeah, I'd love to come to a show. He said, matter of fact, why don't you bring some knee pads? We'll let you get in the ring and take a few bumps. And I'm thinking, well, that'd be great. So I showed up about 3 hours before the show and got in the ring and did the ropes, took the bumps. And immediately I realized this isn't what I thought it was. I mean, because most people realize, they see wrestling and they see how the ring kind of gives you a little bit of shift when you take a fall, like you're not landing on the actual floor. And most people think it's a trampoline. Well, it's not. It's wood, it's metal, it's beams that you're landing on with about a half an inch of foam and about a half inch give that the floor gives you.
If you're lucky, you got a good promoter that hooks you up with some padding, because if not, you ain't got too much to work with.
Right. I've had those days and did that about 15, 20 times, and then realized, okay, well, thank y'all. And then, of course, they let me work security. So I worked security for the show, and on the show, Gentleman Chris Adams, Michael Hayes, Iceman King Parsons. And I'm thinking to myself, even though I'm working security, I'm a part of this show. And sure enough, at the end of the show, the guys were so nice to me, like, Mike, we heard you took some bumps in the ring and this and that, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I did. And like, well, you going to continue? I said, well, can I? And it was like, you can. So I started going to training, and about 3 months of training, going maybe 3 times a month, about once a week. Sometimes you'd miss a week. I'd maybe had about 7 training sessions underneath me. And I showed up at a show to help, do security. I was kind of in training like most guys do. And a guy didn't make it. And they were looking around frantic, trying to figure out a replacement wrestler. And they looked at me and they said, what about Mike? And I'm like, wait, me, Mike? And they're like, yeah. And they're like, yeah, you can do it. And I'm like, well, I'm glad you got confidence, but I said, I don't know what I'm doing yet. And they're like, oh, no, you can do it. And so sure enough, Bronco Bob was the guy who brought me into the business. And he says, well, don't worry about it. You're going to be my partner tonight. Just do your best. And he said, you're probably just going to get beat up. And I said, I'm perfectly fine with that. So I called one of my best friends, Scott Babin, and I called him and I said, bro, you're not going to believe this. I need you to get the camcorder, of course, back in 1994. Get the camcorder, get over here and come video this. Sure enough, I had no tights. I had no boots. I had nothing. So I had to borrow stuff from guys who had some spare stuff in the back, and came out my first match. And that's where the story of Mustang Mike began, November 19th, 1994. And a lot of guys over the years have evolved their name or changed their name, tweaked their name or whatever. And I've never done it. I've always been Mustang Mike. And my character might have changed from being the cowboy to something a little more fast-paced than that. Of course, now known as Mr. Boom. But Mustang Mike was the name I originally started with, and here it is, almost 32 years later. I'm still going by Mustang Mike.
Knowing Bronco Bob, the awesome life and the career that he had, I'm guessing you took all the bumps that night.
Oh, yeah. Completely all of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
tag team match against a tag team of all things called the Hard Time Express. Two guys who, ex-cons, wore the orange jumpsuits. And when I'm telling you, literally beat the hell out of me, I had no offense. I don't even think I got to throw one punch. That's okay, but that was the best day of my life. In the world of a kid that grew up watching wrestling, and I was in a wrestling ring, wrestling in front of fans like I was still at that time, will always be a fan, and participating in front of a crowd of a couple hundred people in Houma.
A lot of folks don't know and never had the opportunity, never will have the opportunity to be waiting at that curtain. So your first match, you waiting for your music. Let everybody know what's going through your head at that moment, and then compare that to the last time you had an opportunity to work. Is there a huge difference in that? Do you still get those butterflies?
I know a lot of guys that no matter what, after multiple times, they have the butterflies. I can still remember going back to that night and realize I'm going to mess up. I was so nervous because I didn't know enough. I mean, it was like when they say on the job training, it was on the job training. But believe it or not, it's not hard to express what it feels like to get beat up. I mean, it's an easy expression when you're going through pain or getting slammed or whatever. When you're on the other end and you're giving, it might be a little more difficult to do the job the way you might need to do it sometime. But my job was easy that night. Just go in there and take a butt whipping, and I did. And I earned the respect of the locker room. For somebody like Chris Adams, walk up to me on my first match and say, "Man, you did great." And I'm thinking to myself, this is a guy that I've watched for the last 10 years of my life that's a world champion on world-class wrestling, and he gave me a compliment on my first match. Things like that, you can never realize the value of what that means to somebody that wanted it. There's a lot of people who probably have gotten to wrestling over the years who probably didn't really care about wrestling. They just wanted to maybe be famous or maybe be in the spotlight. I wanted to be a wrestler. I just didn't think it was a possibility. And Bronco Bob, meeting him, God rest his soul, made that possible. And I've always told everybody that he's the reason that I became a professional wrestler. And that's why my name was Mustang Mike and Bronco Bob. We were the first, my first tag team was the Pony Express, November 1994. And of course, he was around a long time, and jumping ahead, he passed away in 2012. And it was a sad time to lose somebody like that. He was a great guy, but yet I continued on, and the stories between now and then are countless to tell, but I'm willing to tell you a few of them if we got time.
That sounds good. So online, Bronco Bob, Crazy Joe, and John Saxon are credited as your trainers. Is that accurate? Or some other folks involved that got you in the game?
Those were the three main guys. Matter of fact, more John Saxon really than all three. Bronco Bob was a great guy, but he was 6'4", 350 pounds. So he couldn't teach me things that some regular athletic guys could teach me. He couldn't teach me how to, take a hip toss or take a suplex or run the ropes and do a leapfrog. More John Saxon, to give him credit. He was a pioneer for the wrestling business, all known all over the southern United States. He won the NWA Junior Heavyweight Championship. He saw something in me, and I talked to him the other day because I wanted to tell him that I was retiring. And he told me, he said, "Mike," he says, "I saw something in you that a lot of promoters didn't want to recognize." He says, "You were money. You knew how to respond to the crowd. You knew how to get the people behind you. You cared. It wasn't just walking out to the ring and just faking it and slapping a kid's hand. You wanted to see that kid happy." And I still feel like that. But I guess that's just something that maybe I was blessed with, a gift God gave me. But John Saxon saw it in me, and he always wanted to give me the push all the way up and promote me and push me to the potential that I could be. And granted, look, I'm never going to say I've been the best talented wrestler out there. There's so many guys that's so talented, that's been talented more than me. But I've been blessed with a way to better connect with the crowd, and that means a lot in professional wrestling.
There's a lot that goes into it that probably people don't maybe understand or respect, but you're not just walking up off the couch and getting in there. It takes some physicality, it takes some athleticism, it takes some being in shape. I don't think folks understand that part enough. And it's almost like a mix between an athlete and somewhat of an actor because it
Yeah,
takes the
no
best
doubt.
of both worlds to be successful in this sport.
It's physical entertainment. And then the things that people don't understand is sometimes wrestling shows a guy will mess up, and they'll go and, oh, he botched that and this and that, whatever. And granted, yeah, he did, but you don't get a second take when you're live. When you're in the middle of the ring and something happens, you just got to go with the flow. And the really good wrestlers are able to cover for any type of mistakes or things that they do. And some guys, they call them the green guys. They don't know what to do. They'll freeze up and not know what to do. And at one point in time, I was green. Probably my first 7 matches, I just got whipped because I didn't know enough. I was learning, on the job training. And then as I got better and trained and worked on my craft and everything, I got better. And it was many years that I wasn't the best wrestler, but I knew how to entertain people. I had plenty of practice. I mean, 32 years of doing this. I think I've accomplished what I wanted to. And, now we're at this point in my career where just time to better let the other guys do what I've been doing for the longest.
That's what some folks are getting, I guess, blessed with a comedy gimmick. So if you do mess something up, you just play it off like you did it on purpose, and nobody knows any different. Just thinks you're being an asshole. You talked about getting things done in your career. What's your most memorable match, and why does that stick out to you?
Probably the match that is probably defined my popularity was in 2016, the first Cajun Heat. I was supposed to wrestle Jack Dane for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. And when I'm saying the 10 pounds of gold, I'm talking about the belt that Harley Race and Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes and the Funks and all them held, that belt. I was wrestling for that belt. Cajun Heat won in Morgan City. And Jax passed away, God rest his soul. But I got a call 4 days before the show saying that he had come down with vertigo and he couldn't make the show. And I'm telling you, I trained and trained and trained like I was competing to climb Mount Everest. I was in the best shape of my life. And to find that out when I had all my family, all my friends, I had sold a couple hundred tickets. People come and see me and found out that I didn't have that match. That was probably the most exciting moment that I was anticipating, to being dashed on the rocks. But then that very night, Greg Anthony, the NWA National Heavyweight Champion, stepped up and said, I want to wrestle Mustang Mike in his hometown. They had already had planned a steel cage to be there, and I wrestled him in a steel cage, and I beat him in front of 1,000 people in Morgan City. That's ultimately probably got to be the best moment in my career for a championship that was defended by all of the best in the business, Tully Blanchard and Ole Anderson and Lex Luger and all those guys that held the national championship. So to win that belt in Morgan City, that probably has to be the most historic moment in my career, and that was in 2016, which was 10 years ago. And then from that point, that's when my career really elevated. I got national recognition and started to get known, not just in Morgan City or in Houma or whatever. That's when probably my career really took off. Most people that are fortunate enough at a young age to start, I started at 24. Some guys that get breaks early, and I had that chance actually. Technically, a long time ago, I had an offer to go train at the power plant, WCW power plant in Georgia. But I had a son. I was a single dad, and I didn't want to leave my son behind, knowing that I knew what those guys did. Back in the day, they was on the road 300 days out the year. I don't know if I would have made it. I really don't. But in the back of my mind, I wonder if I would have, but I didn't. I didn't go because I didn't want them to tell me yes, and then I had to say maybe no or I couldn't do it. So I knew I couldn't be 100% dedicated.
The biggest regret that you've had in your career is not
The
taking advantage of
biggest,
that?
the biggest unknown regret, because I might have not made it. But over the years, I've ran into so many big name wrestlers, been on shows with Kevin Nash and Mouth of the South Jimmy Hart and the Nasty Boys and Greg Valentine and Kevin Sullivan. I've had the opportunity to sit down and pick their brains, and they've watched me wrestle and watched me entertain. And so many of them told me, Mike, man, I wish I'd have known you 20 years ago. He says, you could have been somebody. So that gave me a little bit of satisfaction to be able to know that even though I might have not done it, somebody that has that credibility in the wrestling business gave me that compliment means just as much. I might have not been in the big spotlight and been on TV, but I've been able to perform in front of my friends and my family and people here. And I feel like I touched some lives and made a change in the wrestling business, positively. I really don't have any regrets. I wonder about the what ifs.
No, it definitely makes sense. And you mentioned the North American Heavyweight Championship. You held on to that for 175 days. What are some of the opponents? I know I saw a match on YouTube. You were in New Jersey wrestling one of the Nasty Boys. I'm sure
Yeah.
you got some big name bouts while you were holding that prestigious title.
I wrestled Jerry Saggs from the Nasty Boys. I wrestled Carlito. I wrestled Rhino. The guy that I beat for the belt, Tyson Dean, was a world-renowned wrestler, and I beat him for the title, and I defended the belt against him. A lot of local talent, because I knew that I wanted other guys that might have never had that opportunity to but to say they was in that type of match, because your average wrestler from, let's just say, even Louisiana doesn't get to wrestle for many national championships with that for
Right.
that type of caliber of they might wrestle for their local promotion and for their heavyweight championship, which not taking anything away from those. But when you're talking about the NWA, that was special. That was a time where I was ranked the number 2 guy in the NWA, right underneath Jack Stain. To think about being second ranked in the National Wrestling Alliance, that's just accolades that I'm proud to say that I was able to do. And I'm proud to be able to say that I gave a lot of championship title matches to local talent from Louisiana. Guys like Mad Dog Gill, which I owe so much credibility in my career. He's pushed me to a level that I could never even imagine, because he's such an athlete and a great performer. Wild Thing, Stan the Man, Sweet Tan. All those guys are great performers and never had the opportunity to get that national recognition. And I wanted to make sure that those guys had a chance to say they was in a match for that type of championship.
So whenever you have that championship, obviously you same time, if that's an option, you get to kind of handpick your opponent and who you're going to face for that, and then you have maybe a mandate to have to go somewhere else to defend it.
Exactly. Yeah. So I ended up traveling to New Jersey. That's where I wrestled against Jerry Saggs. I wrestled at the Cauliflower Alley Club event in Las Vegas and wrestled against Paul Lee up there, a longtime professional wrestler. I've been to Georgia and wrestled Tyson Dean in his hometown. I've been down to Florida and wrestled. I've been to Tennessee, of course, New York, Texas. I've been many states, and I defended the championship against other NWA caliber wrestlers that were ranked, in the top 10. And then when I would come down here, because I was affiliated with GCW at the time, they allowed me to be able to defend against other promotions, top caliber, top ranked wrestler. Even though they might have not been ranked in the NWA, they'd allow me to wrestle their champion or their number 1 or number 2 guy. So that's
Like the
how.
old school territory days where the champ would come in for a month or two, and that I remember that as a kid, seeing some of the bigger
Right.
names going to get some of your local guys, and those were the days, man, the golden era.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I mean, so that's what I'm saying. For people to look at me like that's the guy. A lot of guys will let a lot of that go to their head and become cocky. I mean, you've been around guys who've were just like us and just a regular Joe. And like I said, when I go places, I'm just Mike. I'm not Mustang Mike. Of course, they look at me like Mustang Mike, but I don't put myself up like I'm better than anybody else. I know I have accomplishments that other people might have not have been able to reach, but you're only as good as the opponent that you have. It takes a lot of quality guys, and I've been blessed over the years to be able to really wrestle some really quality opponents. I've been in matches with top-notch stars that I've grew up watching. I mean, like I said, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Greg the Hammer Valentine, Kevin Sullivan, been managed by Jimmy Hart. I've beaten guys like Chris Masters, Jerry Saggs, Carlito. I've got some big wins underneath my belt on guys who was on the big scene. Here we are 32 years later, and sure, could I probably do other things? Yeah, but I just feel like my time is at the point at 55 years old and tons of aches and pains and lower back problems and neck and shoulder issues, and been wrestling hurt for a while. And my family, we sat down and talked, my son especially, and who wants to have their loved one or their dad turn around and potentially one day do too much and do a little bit too much, and it end up being the wrong move and be in a wheelchair or even worse.
That could change in a second.
I mean, there's stories that you know of and seen and been around where guys have got permanently hurt. Sometimes it's just a matter of inches. And I know there's probably been multiple times that I don't even realize how close I came to being really hurt. Just go with the flow. I've been very fortunate to not be really ever supremely injured in a match. I've had tons of small injuries, staples and stitches and concussions and all that. But to go along with that, the people who don't watch wrestling, that look at it like it's a joke, they just don't realize what my brothers and sisters do to do what they do on every weekend. Sometimes, wrestle 2 or 3 times in a week. You might wrestle Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
That's the same folks that'll sit there and watch a sci-fi movie. It just gets a bad rap for no reason. You sitting in the house watching a movie. How much are you enjoying yourself and being entertained? That's professional wrestling, is entertainment. And
yeah,
you don't get to go to a play or a movie and yell at some of the folks that are participating and them yell right back at you. That's the great thing about sitting in a crowd at a independent wrestling show. You almost part of the entertainment and part of the show yourself by just being sitting in the crowd and being an asshole.
I'll run into people all the time, and I'll tell them about a show, and they've never been. Like, well, can kids go? And I'm like, well, yeah, we want the kids to go. And guess what? They ain't got to stay still. They don't have to sit in the seat at a movie and be quiet and can't move and can't get restless. Let them jump up and down and run up to the ring and shake hands and take pictures. And you can not only for $12, $15 watch something, you can become a part of it. And that's the great thing about professional wrestling. And
like I can remember sitting as a kid at the Galliano Centroplex, and I want to say it was Bubba Monroe and Amos Moses, and this was a Saturday, and they had a shot the next day in Houma on an afternoon at East Park, and this is when I knew I was in. As a kid, I knew I was just drawn in. When I begged my grandparents, there's something happened, screwed over Amos Moses on the Saturday. Well, guess what? Tomorrow afternoon, we got a rematch. If I would have had to walk to Houma to watch that match, I would have gone. And luckily, my grandparents brought me, but that's when I knew, all right, this is awesome. And I'm hooked on this stuff as a kid.
That's the thing, that you're able to follow storylines that really good promotions can make you a part of. There's a difference between going to a show and seeing guy A versus guy B. They get in the ring and wrestle. One guy wins, the other guy loses, and they go to the back. Well, the crowd was not a part of that match. But if you have a match where it's a great competitive match, you love one guy, the other guy is harassing the crowd, cussing them out, bringing the crowd involved, and then the good guys got him beat, and then the referee is distracted, and then the bad guy cheats and beats him. Well, then guess what? Now you're invested because you have to see the good guy get the revenge. And, it is a story. It really is a story. It's a physical story that sometimes like in a movie, there's a script. In a wrestling match, there might be things that are supposed to be done, but there's really not a script. It just goes along. Sometimes whatever happens, happens. And the great wrestlers and the great heels are what really make professional wrestling matches go over good to the fans. And like I said, at a young age, you were drawn in by it. And that's what the sport's all about.
I can remember some of the promotions that were, I guess, not against each other, but still running in the same area that were doing shows, I guess, at the same time. You would have a good guy on one week, and then he would get booked for the other promotion. They would bring him out as a bad guy, and I'm like, how are we doing this? There was no consistency. Right. But anyway, that's getting off on a tangent right there. So you mentioned the injuries over the years and the number of matches. What has kept you doing this for 32 years?
There's no doubt it's the fans. Some people know that you were a professional wrestler for a period of time, and I was glad to be involved in some of your career. And there's just something about being able to draw the people in, whatever you are, if you're a good guy or a bad guy. If you're able to bring the people involved in that match and you see the way they respond, whether it's positively or negatively, it shows that you're good at what you do. And over the years, there's been times where I've been the bad guy. I've went out of town and I've wrestled the me of somewhere else, the fan favorite. And I had to be that guy to be able to go against it. And some people are able to do that and some people are not. But 90% of my career, I've always been the fan favorite. And for some reason, when I go out there and I see the kids' faces and I see them by the rail and they put their hand over the ring to want to give me a high five, and when I acknowledge them, to see that look on their face, it's just priceless. There's no better reward than to be able to make a kid happy. And not just kids, the older fans too, because they got some diehards out there. That. They got some of them that bleed it. I'd wrestle a match and I'd feel like, okay, well, that wasn't the best. Could have performed a little better, or I might have had a bad night and lost or whatever. And some of those kids would come up to me and like, Mustang, you're my favorite. And I'm like, wait a minute, how am I your favorite? I mean, you don't see this Jordan John is jumping all over the place and all these high flyers and all these young kids is doing all the flips and all that. And you like the old guy? Oh, yeah, you my favorite. I was cheering for you the whole time. Did you hear me? And I'm like, oh, I heard you. You can't put a price tag on that to see what that means to a child, what it means to the parent to have their child feel that good and be acknowledged and not – because, you've seen some of the wrestlers that they come up to the table and like, you want me to autograph you, scribble on a piece of paper and get out of here. Give me $5. I can pride myself and say I was never that guy, that I always wanted to be somebody to make those kids enjoy. When they went home, they remembered that night and they couldn't wait to come back.
You mentioned the time that you may or may not allegedly have been a bad guy. I could go back to a time probably late 99, maybe early 2000, that there was an event put on at a parking lot of a commercial trailer place.
Oh, yeah.
And then the following day or the following week, maybe in Galliano, an alter ego of Mustang Mike came out. How did that go? And how did you feel having to play that bad guy role? Because I remember that like it was yesterday. I didn't know what to expect. I see you come out in the black, start talking trash. I'm like, oh, we doing this.
Giving some of the people out there inside scoop, I guess you'd say. Sometimes it's fun to be the bad guy. It's always great to be the good guy, but it is fun to be able to see how you have the people in the palm of your hand sometimes as a bad guy, because it's seeing how you can get some of them so involved in a match. And I was never the guy. You see the certain types of heels that'll come out there and they want to get the cheap heat and cuss the crowd and tell them that they stink or they ugly or they whatever the case may be. I wasn't that type of bad guy. I always modeled my bad guy after like the guys like Ravishing Rick Rude, the cocky, arrogant guys. I've been blessed over the years to be in pretty good shape, have a good muscular build, and I would just be the arrogant guy, make them so mad that, you can't be me. So that was the fun part. And from times I did call myself Magnificent Mike, if you remember that.
I'm going to call you out, but I'm glad you said it.
But yeah, that is a brief couple times in my wrestling career that I was needed to do that part. Those were few and far, and those were some fun times as well. But there's nothing like being the guy that the crowd loves. And it's not as easy to be loved as hated, because anybody can go out there and tell somebody their breath stinks or they got rotten teeth or whatever the case may be and make them mad at you. But it's not easy to go out there and say, hey, yell for me. And it means they yell for you. I've been blessed still to this day, looking forward to 2 weeks from now to know how in my hometown in Morgan City, in front of hopefully as many people as possible that come, and, the people who do see this, who've always thought about maybe watching professional wrestling. I'm not asking you to come for me. I mean, I am, but just to go participate and see a show and see what you might be missing out there for as cheap as you can get it. People will go watch a bad movie for $12 and go eat popcorn and Cokes and spend another $20, $30 when you can go to a wrestling show for 2.5 hours and be involved in the show and get way more out of it.
I got a chance to attend the last Cajun Heat event, and it's not just, all right, show up, sit down. You got vendors out there. You got all the wrestlers out there selling their merchandise. You got a top flight DJ entertainer type of person. It's not like you just go into the Market City Auditorium and you're just going to see what it normally looks like. You guys dress the place up. It's an awesome environment.
Especially Cajun Heat. Our other shows, we try to do what we can, but Cajun Heat is not just wrestling. It's a show. The music and the lighting and the entrance and the atmosphere. And of course, who would I be if I didn't mention the boys from Edie White that come to Cajun Heat every year and blow the roof off the place. And they set the atmosphere. I mean, that's my boys. They, over the last probably 8 years, have kept me younger than I probably am, just by the adrenaline that it takes when you go out there and perform. July 11th, man, I just want the people to come out and Morgan City Auditorium and come enjoy a good time, and let's make this a memory.
Coach Kyle Lasang and I are really good buddies, and I met up with him randomly at a show that you were on. I believe it was either Elite or PW225. I didn't realize he was such a big wrestling fan until that night. And then we purposely met up after that at a number of shows. So there's no doubt that he would have had his entire team at your events. And that has added just a different layer. Once they get over that initial nervousness of just being there and everybody kind of got their eyes on them, when they get to the main event, they are out of control in a good way, no negative way.
Yeah.
But they are having a blast.
Well, that's how it started. I think it was Cajun Heat 3. Coach Kyle called me and he says, hey, Mike, he says, I followed you over the years and watched you wrestle, and I've been to several shows, but I know that the past 2 Cajun Heats you have is insane, and I'd like to make a field trip with the boys and give them a camaraderie to go to something together where they just not walking through the zoo or going to a baseball game, something different. And I'd like to bring them to your wrestling show. Is that possible? And I'm like, well, yeah. Like, how many you think? I've been doing this for a long time. And when people say that, they mean 10 kids, He says, oh, about 80 to 90. I'm like, yeah, okay, that ain't happening. I know better than that. That's not going to happen. And sure enough, he calls me about 45 minutes before the show and says, we're on the way. I got 2 buses. I got 95 kids. Is that okay? And I said, it absolutely is. Not knowing what to expect, because you're talking about teenage boys who are chasing girls, and wrestling probably isn't the biggest, most important thing in their life. But when I walked out to the ring and I saw those boys up there and I acknowledged them, we connected. And ever since then, I guess I'm their alternate dad or whatever the case may be, but they my boys. They just lit up the building, and they haven't missed a show. This could be their 7th or 8th year in a row coming, and it's all due to Coach Kyle, and I support them 100% more than I actually technically do my own hometown school. And I'm an alma mater of Morgan City. I'll always be, but there's a connection that I have with those boys from E.D. White, and I go do things. I go to their homecoming, and I go to functions that they have, and I'll always be indebted to their support, and they'll always have me on their side because they've been on mine.
I can remember going to a state championship game in Lafayette and seeing you on the sideline. I didn't catch the connection that was going on prior, but then I kind of figured it out. But I was like, look at Mustang on the sideline for a state championship game, man.
Oh, yeah. When you talk about the fact that he wanted me to go give them a pep talk, I mean, that's just an honor that I can't even imagine that I would ever deserve. We have a connection, and it's a camaraderie between the boys, and I think it really keeps their season together well. They're close. They're not just 100 boys that's out there competing, trying to be individuals. They're a team, and that makes a difference. Speaking about that, that's the team that I have with brotherhood. You know, our brothers in the wrestling business, it's a club. It's a closeness. And, you know, there's some butts out there, some jerks that, you know, are all about themselves. But when you have a good group of guys that want to see the federation successful, you know, I've been lucky with Gulf Coast Wrestling that over the last 8 years has been Gulf State Wrestling. And, of course, I wrestled with some great groups, you know, Pro Wrestling 225. Wild Thing over there. He's a proud product of my school that's able to start his own thing and do promotion over there and has had great success. They bring in some great talent as well. A lot of these promotions use a lot of the same guys because you have your fan favorites and the ones that they hate. There's other promotions around and that put on great events, but Gulf State Wrestling and Pro Wrestling 225, that's my two homes, and I've just been blessed to be able to participate and be in front of some great people and have some great fans. And, of course, going back to sponsors, so many great sponsors. If anybody's out there and looking and they want to look me up, they can look me up on Facebook, Gulf State Wrestling, also Mustang Mike. And, of course, technically my shoot name, Michael Beadle, which a lot of people know me as. But they can go in and see some stuff. And you can actually go on YouTube and find a lot of my old videos and see some of the stuff that I've done over the years, and it's been a ride. And like I said, I hate for it to end. I really do, because you're giving up on something that's been the majority of my life. I'm 55 years old, and I've been wrestling 32 years. I know I'm not walking away from wrestling. I'll still be involved in promoting or doing something, especially with Gulf State Wrestling.
That was going to be my next question. So even though you're hanging up the boots, do you still plan on putting on events?
Yes, yeah, no doubt. I mean, I can't walk away from something that I love, that I take pride in helping make a great event. Some people know, some people don't know, but I do promote for Gulf State Wrestling and help organize and get things together, and a lot of hands-on with fans and organizing the event and stuff like that, which I've learned a lot. I still learn. There's no knowing it all in professional wrestling. Key is trying to get the people to come that might not realize what they're missing. I very much appreciate you and helping us spread the word on this podcast. I know you do a lot of sports stuff as well. And for people out there who might be tuning in and watching this, come give us a chance. And if it ain't Gulf State Wrestling, if you go somewhere else in the hometown where you're at and you see some wrestling, go bring your kid over there and take a shot at it and see, because sometimes you might not realize the great time that you're missing out on.
It's a blast. I brought my oldest daughter to one of the shows in Houma, and not to say that she's hooked like I was, but she enjoyed it. Got a couple more questions, and then we'll go into
Sure.
a rapid fire type of deal. We'll learn
Sure.
what Mustang Mike's about. Craziest story that's ever happened on the road or backstage. You don't have to mention names.
When you talk about fans, you talk about how intense they are. I guess this is the first thing that popped in my head, so I'm going to say it. I was at a show one time, and I was wrestling with another guy, and we were tag teaming. And when we came out to the ring, there was a girl who was yelling and screaming, and just one of those, you ain't this, and you blah, blah, blah. And I don't know why he did it, but when he turned around, the girl was yelling at him, and he spit, and the spit went in her mouth. And when I'm telling you, that girl jumped the rail, and this dude I was wrestling with could handle himself, and he ran like a scalded dog because that girl was ready to kill him. That's the most craziest fan interaction that I've ever seen happen. I mean, God forbid. I mean, if somebody spit in their mouth, I've seen the fan reactions of crazy things that's happened. I've seen guys get really hurt in the ring and stuff like that, which you expect. Also, in the same token, when we was the bad guy, you used to turn around and the fan would be yelling behind your back and turn around and yell at him and go boo or whatever. And there was an old guy one time, and he got so excited his false teeth fell out his mouth and landed on the floor. Those are just moments that you can't ever think that you're going to ever see that happen. And
the heel heart that I have and heel mind frame that I have, if I got somebody's false teeth on the ground, I'm taking that and running. He's going to have to come find me.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to touch them, you know. So those are a couple crazy incidents that I've seen happen at shows, and I said I probably got a bunch more. You know, I've been hit in the head a bunch of times and probably got more concussions than I realized that I've had. So my long-term memory isn't there, but yeah, that's a couple crazy moments that I remember happening that I was a part of some sort of way.
We'll go into some rapid fire questions, be quick answers, and then I got one more question, and then we'll promote Cajun Heat 10 again.
Okay.
So rapid fire, favorite wrestler of all time?
I have probably a combination of three. Childhood favorite, probably Junkyard Dog. Overall, probably favorite as far as being the ultimate wrestler is Ric Flair. And for some reason in the early 90s, I loved Nikita Koloff. And there's so many that fit right underneath that. And I never really patterned my career after any of those and took anything that they did really. But I just something about them that entranced me. You know, I guess Nikita for his aggressiveness, Ric Flair for just being who he is, the dirtiest player in the game. Yeah. Growing up as a child, you know, loving the Junkyard Dog. And I was lucky enough to be able to be a member of the Dog Pound when I first started in Mid-South. So to be able to meet him and do that. So probably my top three. And of course, you know, there's all the ones underneath that, what Hogan did for the business, so many others, but probably those three. That's probably two of those three a lot of people wouldn't put on their list.
Favorite tag team of all time?
I'd probably say the Road Warriors. I mean, they were just so dominant. There's been some great tag teams. The way I look at wrestling, I look at it as far as not just one thing. Like you have your fan favorites like the Rock and Roll Express and those guys and so many great tag teams. But the Road Warriors were just dominant, and it just always was so impressive to me. They wasn't the best skilled, but I felt like no matter where they went, they could really beat anybody's ass. You know, so I guess it was believable.
Favorite entrance music of all time?
Really, honestly, it's most people might say this, but the way I feel about it is the entrance song is when it hits, you're automatically in shock, even though you know it's about to happen. It's just something that just hits you. And that glass breaking with Stone Cold is something. Of course, Ric Flair's build-up of Space Odyssey was great, and probably The Rock. I have appreciation for what that does for a crowd and how they can entrance a crowd. Probably even got to throw the Undertaker's music in there as well. Probably it'd be a combination of those four for different reasons.
Who's the biggest prankster in the locker room?
Oh, Stan Sweetan. Yeah. You've been around him. I mean, he's done some things that probably I don't want to reveal, but he's done some crazy stuff. But he's also embarrassed himself if it comes down to it, having his pants pulled down and showing his hairy ass, in a show. He will do whatever it takes to better entertain a crowd. But he's also done some crazy things that I've seen in the locker room, and I've probably been a part of them.
Are we overlooking Chris Adidas?
Oh, no. You're right about that. Chris Adidas was probably not around as long enough, but just saying that name, he was a character.
He was
But
so good, man. He was so good
yeah,
on the
he was.
mic. He was so good in the ring. I remember one show
Yeah,
I was backstage, he may have defecated in somebody's hat.
he probably did. And like I
And then I
said,
remember there was an angle that we did in Amelia that he pissed your pants.
yeah, yeah.
Like that
That's the
dude,
fact.
he
He
is
was something.
he was awesome. And
He
glad to
was.
call him a friend of mine, but that dude, he made everything fun. There was no nervous energy around that guy, and he could have been something special, man.
Yeah. And speaking of him, I don't know if you remember the time where somebody hit him with a sunset flip and they grabbed his tights and pulled him down and he had women's lace panties on.
There was
So
nothing too big for that guy.
no, that he deserves that recognition. But it's as far as long term, I've been around him for 28 to 30 years because Stan Sweetan's been around almost as long as me, and to see the things that he's done, he's probably on the top of the charts. But as far as Chris Adidas, he's been one of the ones for sure. I hadn't seen him in forever. I miss him.
Same, same. He was one of our kind for sure. Who threw the hardest chop that you ever took?
There's been a bunch. I've always had a good target for chops. Some guys would throw a chop and they kind of just cave in their chest and a chop don't really echo. So when you got a good target and somebody knows how to throw a chop, they can really lay it in. But really, honestly, most people don't know this guy, but he patterns himself against Ric Flair. He's from Georgia. His name's Nature Boy Paul Lee. Man, when I'm telling you, he could light you up. And he hit me with a couple chops sometime. And one of the few guys that I had to bow out to it. He hit me with 2 or 3 chops, and I was getting out of there. I wasn't taking no more. People don't realize what really a good chop feels like, but there's no faking a chop. There's no pulling a punch. If you lay a chop in, it's you've been hit,
Yeah,
and it stings for a good bit.
yeah, it definitely leaves some marks. What's one match you wish that you could wrestle again?
I don't know why this comes to mind. There's probably multiple matches that I've been disappointed in. My biggest disappointment match, it was early on in my career. I was finally getting the hang of wrestling, and I wrestled a guy named Awesome Al Savage. I had probably about 20 matches at that time, and I wrestled him, and I messed everything up. When I'm telling you, I did everything wrong. I was in the wrong spot. I forgot things I was supposed to do. I froze up in the ring. I remember after the match, a couple of my buddies in the locker room saying, "It's okay. The crowd didn't know, and you're going to get better and learn from it." And from that point, I got more confident. I realized that, I got to be better. So that's the most disappointing match that I probably had. And that was probably 30 years ago. And I still remember being that disappointed after that match. And I don't know if I've ever mentioned that to anybody. So that's something new. A match that I could wish I could go back and relive again. I mean, I've had so many great matches and so many moments, but there'll never be nothing that I could ever top from winning in the steel cage and Cajun Heat ones. That's a moment that I wish I could relive again, which I know I never will, but that would be another winning moment that I wish I could relive again. But those big matches or of that caliber are done. But I got my memories.
We're learning all kind of stuff about Mustang Mike in the last hour. So my
Yeah,
last
man.
one wrestler, past or present, that you have not been in the ring with that you wish you could have got in the ring with.
There's probably countless ones, but ultimately, I probably would have loved to wrestle Ric Flair because he was such a great heel, and I pride myself on being a great babyface. If I could go back and take his heyday of being a great heel and my heyday of now being a great face and put that as a dream match to see how he could get the crowd against him and how I could get the crowd for me, I think it would be the ultimate matchup in my mind, just because his name lived up. He was the greatest of all time, in my opinion. I mean, John Cena has more accolades, but I could never take that title away from Ric Flair, and everybody's got their own
Yeah,
opinion on that.
I
But
respect Cena, but he's done some great
oh yeah,
things. But Ric Flair, he is a GOAT. I mean, there's nobody that could outwork that guy, man. He
Yeah,
was
and
on every night.
I can understand people who don't feel that way, and they might not feel that way about Hulk Hogan, and Hulk Hogan's done some things that, most people frown on and stuff like that. But it's the way I figure it is what you've done for the business. And John Cena has been a great ambassador and done so much for kids and promoting WWE. But really, if you think about it, it's only been for one federation. Ric Flair did it for everywhere he went, whether Mid-South or World-Class Championship Wrestling or anywhere when he was going to territories.
Other
He was
countries as
the
well.
man. Yeah, he did it everywhere. And he wrestled when times were tougher than they are now, when the wrestlers would fight.
He did
And
that most of his career, well, a lot of his career after that plane wreck. Like he wasn't
yeah,
100% ever.
yeah, most people don't realize that he had a broken back and came back from it and continued to wrestle. I know if his body would hold up, he'd probably still be doing it.
Last match
Uh,
was tough to watch. As a
yeah.
lifelong fan, it was tough. We'll kind of wind down one more time. Give us some info on Cajun Heat and what can we expect from Mustang Mike during Cajun Heat 10, July 11th.
First of all, let's start from the other things on the card. Every part of this show is special. We got so much talent on this show. It's crazy. We have a six-pack challenge for the first ever crowning of the GSW Intercontinental Championship. In that match is Killer Shane, Michael White, Chainbreaker, Kerry Grove, Dragonheart, Beautiful Bobby, and of course none other than the Rocket, another long-term wrestler, one of my other wrestling sons that I helped train over the years, and
Extremely entertaining individual. Extremely
extremely,
entertaining.
man. He's one of his own as well. So that's one of the matches. We also have my long-term nemesis of all time is Mad Dog Gil Gracie. He's the current AIWF North American Heavyweight Champion, which he beat me for that championship. So I'm still a little stale about that. I won that belt in Chicago, Illinois. I went up there and wrestled and won that championship with Jason as my manager up there. He's defending that championship against favorite of all time, way up there in the ranks, Louisiana, is Jordan Ja. So that's going to be a great match right there in itself. And then we have Wes Warren defending the GSW Light Heavyweight Championship against Barrett Brown, which is a former NWA Junior Heavyweight Champion and AIWF Junior Heavyweight Champion. That's going to be a spectacular match. Both of those guys are in their prime.
Didn't he have a cup of coffee in WWE?
Yeah, oh yeah, he's done some spots in WWE and some extra work and stuff. He's done wrestling in Japan, all over the place. So he's going to give Wes Warren all he wants in that match. So that's going to be a great match.
I actually just watched his match with Steve Anthony from one of the PW 225 cars. That was really good.
Speaking of Steve Anthony, he's on our show and he's wrestling. And Steve Anthony's one of the few guys who's been around as long as me that's still doing it. And he's wrestling the heavyweight champion, Vladimir Koloff. They've wrestled each other a couple times already, and I've seen one of their matches, and it's going to be hard hit and explosive. They don't know what's going to happen in that. We also have former WWE talent. I think he's still wrestling with TNA, Big Con, that was with the Ascension. He's 6'4", 275 pounds. He's a monster. And he's wrestling Chris Keith. They're actually wrestling for the FAW heavyweight championship on this match. Chris Keith just won that championship, and he talked with GSW, and they decided to let him defend that championship at Cajun Heat. That's a huge match. That's the majority of the show. And, of course, in the main event, I'm lucky enough to be in the main event in my hometown against a guy that I haven't said much about this segment, but he's one of my brothers that I met 10 years ago, Andrew Anderson from up in New Jersey. He's been super supportive of my career. He's probably the one guy who's really gave me the push behind closed doors with the NWA and pushing me to be able to be that guy, along with Matt Riviera, that was the original promoter for National Wrestling Alliance. Andrew Anderson is my brother. We're tag teaming on this show. Our tag team name, of course, is Mean and Lean. We've won the GSW championships before, along with the Pro Wrestling 225 championship. And we're going against the newly crowned tag team champions, Tony Donato and Ryan Awesome. Both these guys are under 30. Between them, they're pretty much almost my age combined.
I'll tell you real quick about Tony Donato. I got a chance to see him at the last Cajun Heat event, and I came away super impressed. I think this guy has the utmost potential to do something really big in the sport of professional wrestling, and I'm a fan of his for sure. I've been following him on social media since then, and I'm excited to have him back in Morgan City.
He's getting better. He started great. He's putting on some size. He's learning a lot. He's getting a lot of experience. He's winning a lot of championships. It's hard to have everything. You got to have the mic skills. You got to have the look, and you got to have the it factor with the crowd. And he has the potential to go up to the next level. And a couple of guys on this show does. Vladimir Koloff, he's great. Of course, Steve Anthony is up in age, but Steve Anthony's wrestled some of the greats of our time. AJ Styles, some of the spectacular guys in our business, and that's going to be a spectacular match. But as we talk about it, it's the last match of my career, win, lose, or draw. Couldn't ask for any other better option to have former tag team partner, Mean and Lean, Andrew Anderson, coming in and being on my side to try to win one more match in front of my hometown crowd. I'm 9-0. I'm not going, even though it's my last match, I'm not going in this sucker to look bad or to lose or whatever. And, we all have our injuries and stuff like that. I've been suffering with a tear in my rotator cuff for over a year, and I've got back issues and neck issues, not to mention I'm 55. But none of those things are an excuse. I'm going into this match 100% focused and dedicated to perform in front of my hometown, the boys from E.D. White, all my fans, perform for my sponsors, and, of course, all of the people out there that have been supporting me over 32 years. And like I said, it's not goodbye, but it's the end of my in-ring wrestling, and I just really have to do it to be able to not put myself in a bad situation that could happen. We never know the what ifs, and I've been very fortunate in 32 years. So Cajun Heat is the culmination of everything. And for the people out there that are interested in coming, you can still get your tickets, 985-221-1590. You can also look on any of the websites on Facebook, Gulf State Wrestling, Mustang Mike. There's advertisement out everywhere. I know that you're advertising and pushing it, and y'all are going to be there as well. And I'm glad to have some of my former brothers, always brothers, but former wrestlers to be there and be there for that night. And but you can get tickets in advance. We still have limited seats on the floor available, but that building holds 1,000 people, and we've never had less than 800. And there's no bad seat in the Morgan City Auditorium. You can sit,
even if you're at the top, it's still a good view.
Yeah, it's really the best view if you think about it. When you sit in center ring, about the fifth row up in the bleachers, you got a bird's eye view of everything. Looking forward to it, and pretty much got right at 10 or 11 days left. I'm really getting my training down and my cardio, and I want to be in good shape to go in there and perform the best that I can at my age. And to go to a show of this magnitude for as cheap as $15, anybody that's ever been to any sort of WWE show, you will sit way up in the rafters and pay $60 or $70 to sit
Easy.
Way that far away and not have any interaction with the wrestlers. That's just show up, sit at your seat, buy $12 beers. And
I was about to say, you're not going to have to buy a $12 beer.
Yeah, not meet any of the wrestlers. At Cajun Heat, you will meet every one of them. They all come out before the show. They all come out for intermission. You can get pictures and autographs and have that moment. And so I just suggest anybody out there who's been to a show, I'd love to have you to be at my last one. The people who've supported me over the year that might not realize that this is my last one, it is. Wrestling will go on, and it'll continue to get better. And I hope I can say that I've made it a better place over my time and help some guys. And we haven't talked about the career of Damien St. Pierre. I know this show has been about me, but I was proud to have him as Brody Young, right?
Yep, I was way
Brother,
back in the day. But you know what? I'm in better shape now than what I was back then.
it
Like
is. And
I could give it a go.
I think you got one more in you. You can come take my spot, bro. So,
I don't know about all that, but I got one more in me.
yeah, I believe
I'm
you
gonna try to
do.
get Nick out of retirement.
Yes, Brody Young and Shane Thunder, one more time. Young
Between
Thunder. I
between all the kids that
still
Nick and I
remember.
have, we could sell out an event.
Oh, there's no doubt. I know we've talked about it for a long time. We're down there in the Rose area, but it definitely needs to happen, and I'll come be a part of it for sure. But yeah, as far as Cajun Heat 10, people come out. I love my fans. Just giving a last minute shout to my I guess you'd call it my wrestling sons that I've helped train along with y'all. Rocket, Wild Thing, as much as he's hated Michael White, Killer Shane, Flip Wolfman Jackson. You know, there's been so many that I've had my hand in the cookie jar and in helping become part of this business. And I'll never forget all the memories. And I said, I know I'm talking like I'm going off into the sunset, but it's a lot of reminiscing when you think about 32 years and the memories that I got. But we're going to have
Yep.
a great time at Cajun Heat 10.
Putting the wrap on an awesome interview. Definitely appreciate your time. Putting the wrap on a 32-year awesome career. All comes to a culmination July 11th, Morgan City, Cajun Heat 10. Tickets on sale, 985-221-1590. And Mike, I'm going to be as corny as I possibly can, but we appreciate you. I appreciate you personally. And to take your tagline, we're going to go out with a boom.
Boom, baby. Love y'all and appreciate y'all, everybody watching, and hope y'all come see one more match on July 10th, Morgan City Auditorium. Come see it.
You got it. Mustang Mike signing out. Group Chat Podcast. Thanks for everybody jumping in.
The Group Chat Podcast.
And as always, go Tarps. And God bless America.
Hammer.
I was waiting for Tommy to chime in.